Next up on the list then is Playground Games, Fable. Their take on Fable. I don't like Fable, but I do like the look of this. I did not like the originals, but I'm extremely intrigued with this because one, I love Playground Games. I love what they've done with Forza Horizon, and two, technically speaking, this looks fantastic. They're doing some great stuff with the visual design here. And three, I'm just, it may as well be, this is a complete reboot. I liked the concept of Fable, but I didn't like the way it actually played out. And part of that's probably due to Molyneux's ridiculous promises over what it would be. And then it was not that at all. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But here though, very interested to see what's going on. And I guess I kind of want to start with the tech stuff. Have we had any confirmation on what engine they're using here?
I know from behind the scenes, I've asked, it is Playground's tech.
That's because it definitely does not have that Unreal look like so many others. The lighting is definitely not that, but I'm glad to hear that it's Playground's tech. That's actually very encouraging because their stuff is awesome, but they've never done anything like this, right? They've had characters in Forza Horizon, but I wouldn't describe them as, worthy of a standalone action adventure. Per se. It would be great if there was some car cameos in this, though, I gotta admit.
There's got to be a Forza Horizon joke in there somewhere. I'd hope there is, actually.
Yeah. So Alex, what are your thoughts on this? What did you think of old Fable games, and what do you think about this one?
Old Fable games are, well, I've played the original, and I've also seen bits of, I think it's the third game, because it's actually one of the original games that has TAA in it, like a ridiculously rudimentary version of TAA.
Oh, it's like super blurry as a result. Like there's so much ghosting.
And it's constantly ghosted frames.
Yeah, I remember
that. I definitely remember that. And so one, obviously, the good versus evil thing in the at least from my recollection of the original, is like the main advertising point, I almost feel, of the original Fable. And one thing when you look at these trailers that we've been seeing is I actually don't think that has been a main advertising point. The binary, you are evil or you are good, and it dramatically changes your visual appearance and maybe some of the game interactions. That hasn't been here at all. What they've been instead emphasizing is like the heroic adventure, but through the lens of comedy. I think that is what they're really driving for with this game. The original games were trying to be funny in a kind of early 2000s level of humor. And this seems a bit more like there's actually punchlines. I think this is what this is about. So I'm excited for that aspect. I don't have a very fond relationship with the Fable series, but tech-wise, I think one interesting thing is there's one thing we know is that their technology definitely scales. It supports ray traced reflections. It may even support more than that. But one thing they pioneered with Forza Horizon, the last one, that's five, is their Surfel based GI system. It wasn't ray traced. They could probably extend it to be ray traced if they wanted, but there's two shots in this trailer that I thought were interesting. I think it's at 132 or 131 maybe. They're walking into some sort of cathedral like looking area.
Oh yes, yeah.
With some stairs with vaulted ceilings, and the arches, and underneath that one arch, you can definitely see some light spill and some occlusion on a larger scale. It doesn't look necessarily per pixel, but that's stuff that I really hope they're not doing that by hand. That seems like a big waste of time.
Probably not.
But that's stuff that technically could have been done maybe in the other games that they've done in the past, but you don't really have like those type of locations ever showing up. Like John was saying, there's no really character locations and stuff like that. Another scene is a little bit earlier in the trailer where it's hard to get a grasp of how indirect lighting is actually working, is when the main character walks up to like the equivalent of like a potion cellar or something like that in the city. And there it's like I got less of like a really good bounce light look, where I thought that looked like a little bit more like, oh, this is SSAO mixing or something. So it's interesting. There's different levels of fidelity there. I don't know if they have RTGI in the engine at all at this point in time, but I would kind of really love to see it for a game like this, which is presumably time of day, based open world game,
Yeah.
and I think that would really benefit the visuals. But the visuals still shown otherwise, regardless of what I said, were really top quality. The geometric detail, for example,
Super
I thought was
high.
excellent. Yeah.
I also really liked it. One thing they did really well in Forza Horizon 5 was that large scale occlusion in forests, where they would sort of simulate like the natural shadowing you get. Again, it's like a hack basically to overcome the lack of real time ray trace GI, but it was effective. But I see what you mean in the scene with the cellar stuff in the background, the barrels, everything lined up. It's a bit glowy in spots,
and it's also like it's shifting in a way that suggests some screen space reuse. Like
Oh yeah, yep. There's almost it's like exactly. I can see that right when the camera spins around. You see that barrel sort of sheen up. The shine shifts there. I will say though, they have really nice sharp self shadows. Like in that same scene, if you look at like the collar of the person she's talking to, his coat, you can see the sword on her back. Everything's extremely well defined. So I don't think that's just like a normal shadow map there. It looks too sharp, at least from what I can tell in this video stream. It's always hard to, but yeah, that looks really good.
Here though, one thing is I imagine this is going to be a 30 FPS game. I just get that feeling.
Likely.
The feeling.
I mean, already in Forza Horizon 5, they had to make sacrifices to get to 60 FPS on console. Right? Mm-hmm. So, and that was a cross-gen experience. I think 30 for this, it's acceptable enough. And there'll be a PC version as well, I assume. So, we can go higher than that. One other thing I wanted to highlight was that around 111, they showed that one lady there with an extremely impressive haircut. I thought.
Yes.
Like it's a very full like black hair, and it's just like the way the light plays off of it, just like the density and granularity of it. That's really good. Like that's hard to get right, and it's definitely excellent.
Yeah, that does look really
the
good.
hair in general
hair
actually is good, I would say.
Yeah.
Including Albion's greatest hero retired. He's got that sort of like long, stringy wrestler hair, it looks pretty good.
Excuse me for not recognizing the person. Is that Super Hans from Peep Show? Who's the actor there? Have you ever seen Peep Show?
I've seen Peep Show. I can't remember who. He definitely is reminiscent of someone for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, we know that
everyone from the UK right now is screaming at me like, "How dare you not recognize Ferguson Funkelfunk?" I don't know who he is, but yeah, but that's what it gave me the vibes about.
It's probably going to be because I think they've got like Richard
Awad.
Awad. I can never say that. He was in that initial trailer that they showed off.
Oh, it is Super Hans. You're right.
Right?
Is it?
It's Matt King.
I wasn't sure.
Dude, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
And all the narrator is Stephen Fry. That's great. So wow.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, actually.
So they're really leaning into all this. That's pretty great. Cool. Yeah. Fable looks cool. I'm really happy with that as well. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
I mean, I like trailers, but this is one game where I really want to just also see unedited gameplay at one point, because the old games are so old. Like if you play Fable 1, it's no way that this game plays like Fable 1 or even Fable 3 or any of the other games.
Hopefully not.
It's going to have a lot more modern flavoring in it. So I'm curious what the just base gameplay looks like at this point.
Agreed.